Well, thank you. It's great to be here. And Ty, you're complaining about your placement, and I'm even further down the road here. But I'm going to talk quickly and hopefully passionately and keep you all awake. And it's a pleasure to be here. And if you, I know many of you have been to the National Mall, but if you haven't, walk out the front door and go across the street, and we would welcome you to come and see it. I have either the best or the worst job in the National Park Service, and it kind of depends upon when you ask me that. The National Mall's a kind of a crazy place and full of politics and lots of people and lots of interest. But I am indeed honored to be the superintendent of this iconic space. And I just want to talk for just a minute about our partnership, our need for partnerships in the National Park Service, and this fantastic partnership with CyArk. And I had never had the pleasure to meet Barbara and Ben until just a few moments ago, and they turned around and introduced themselves to me. And I do have to say that Jamie has fully, I think, captured your passion and talked about your passion and what you want to do. And so she has conveyed that to me. But just talking to you for 5 minutes, your enthusiasm and passion about protecting these iconic cultural sites around the world and your desire to help people understand them is infectious. And they said to me just a few moments ago, I hope this is okay, they said, Bob, you know, the Washington Monument, that's great, and Lincoln, that's good, and the Jefferson, that's good, but you know, these sites are all part of the National Mall, and it's not just the structures themselves, but it's their placement within the National Mall. That's all important, and we would like to take on the entire National Mall. And I said, all right, twist my arm. So I am, it's indeed a pleasure to meet you and to work with you. So I just wanted to spend a few moments today sharing our experience with CyArk and about building a partnership around technology. And quite frankly, if you had asked me about a year and a half ago about CyArk and this technology and how it could help us, I wouldn't have really known very much about it. And as the CyArk team came and made a presentation to us, it just seemed like, well, what is, you know, what's wrong with this? It seems too good. And indeed, it has proved to be a great partnership, and Iron Mountain, it's been wonderful. So we are very excited. I wanted to tell you just a little bit about the National Mall, although you probably have seen some of it. NAMA, as we call it in the Park Service, we have about 75 memorials and monuments. And in addition to the main National Mall, we have 150 park spaces in downtown Washington, D.C., including places such as Murrow Park and DuPont Circle. We have about 1,000 acres of parkland, and we host over 25 million visitors each year. So that makes us by far the most visited National Park Service in America. And that's good and exciting. At times it's overwhelming. And on a busy spring day, if you like, a lot of 8th and 9th graders come to the National Mall. We sometimes frequently get over 1,200 buses a day, and it seems like they're all school kids. So that's a lot of school kids, but that is also why it's so important for us to figure out how do we engage this next generation in our park and our resources. We have about 30,000 sports enthusiasts, and we have huge events on the National Mall. We have about 3,000 permits annually. So those are kind of some of our big things. We have the big iconic memorials that you all are familiar with and symbols of America. but we're also this great democratic space, and the National Mall is the place where people gather from around America and around the world to actually practice democracy. So we have people, the great March on Washington occurred about 51 years ago. Marian Anderson, of course, sang on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. And we have ongoing people expressing their rights as Americans to express their opinion. And it's a grand and glorious thing. And people say we're nice that we tolerate it. But we don't just tolerate it on the National Mall. We honor that. And we try to, at times, somewhat manage it, which is difficult, but it's a wonderful thing. And we have everything from people for and against abortion, people for and against guns, and it's coming up on Halloween, and we will have people who are advocates for witches and warlocks. So we have a little bit of everything, but that's the great purpose of the National Mall, in addition to these iconic resources. And the third thing is we're also a place that really actively embraces people to come and play and have fun. And that's an important part of our America's front yard, is that we have people playing volleyball, and we have people doing softball games, and all part of that great American tradition. So we are indeed America's front yard, and but have a lot of challenges. And this is the Lincoln Reflecting Pool, which we a couple of years ago totally redid at a cost of about $35 million. It's a 7-acre body of water, and that's part of the challenges we have on the National Mall. Is a lot of our infrastructure is deteriorating. We have about $550 million in deferred maintenance. So we came up with a great plan a few years ago, the National Mall Plan. I guess I zipped ahead here, that's okay, which talks about a plan for revitalizing the National Mall. And we said that we would do this in a great public-private partnership. And so we created a new support group, the Trust for the National Mall, and our goal is to raise about $700 million, hopefully half of that private funds and half of it public dollars. And so partnerships is a critical tool to helping us to manage the park. This is, it's incredibly expensive to maintain the park, and as I talked to my colleagues when we put in for some of our repair needs, they're like, my goodness, this is so much money. And I said it wasn't my idea to put these rather large, iconic structures on the fragile infrastructure, frequently on former marshland. So we do have, but these are iconic structures, and we're going to work to keep them up. And CyArk, here's just an example. This is a scan from the Thomas Jefferson Memorial, which recently sustained some water damage. And the CyArk folks were in the park doing some scanning work at the Lincoln Memorial, and we said, could you come over here and help us at this location? Because part of our challenge is a lot of our structures are very big and hard to get to in a number of locations. So this was very high up, and they were able to do that. The other thing I really like about CyArk, there's the obvious of the photo documentation, the scanning and preservation of this important information. But there's two ways that we want to preserve our resources. One is through actual physical work on preserving them and documenting what we have. But the other way to preserve is to make sure that our current visitors and our future generations of visitors understand and appreciate the importance of these resources. So that was just this whole bonus that Jamie is like, well, on top of that, we will actually help you to develop some educational tools that you can take out to classrooms that you can use in the park. We will help you to develop some, I'm hoping this is all true, and we will help you to develop some exhibitry that you can use for your visitors. And so, it was like, wow, this is you know, this is really exciting because that's, as the National Park Service is gearing up for our centennial in 2016, we're not just heralding the great success that our nation had in creating a national park system, but where are we going in the future? And if we cannot maintain our relevance and making sure that new generations of people understand and appreciate these incredible resources, we cannot protect them. So here is CyArk, and they're helping us in developing all of these incredible interpretive tools. So taking this information and actually not just storing it away in a safe place, which is very important, but making sure that this information is readily accessible to our visitors in the park today and for people that may never come to Washington, D.C. and see these resources remotely. Well, I just had to, you know, throw this in just to show off that, and I'm really not 2 feet taller than the president, but it is an exciting place here on the National Mall. We have a lot going on. This is a week ago, the Prime Minister of India came, and as usual, we had to drop everything and clear all of our visitors out and welcome some special guests. So we do have a lot of ongoing things here. It's a very complex site. Here we are during the just a little over a year ago. One of the worst experiences in my life is closing the National Mall to the public during the government shutdown, and that was a very positive task for me to do, and I have assured our leadership that should the government ever shut down again, I will be getting in my car and driving south, and don't bother to call me. But that's the wonderful thing about the mall too, is it is a exciting, vibrant, high-profile place. My third week here in my new job at the National Mall was, we were planning that week to open the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial that week, and the week kind of started off rough with a little earthquake here in Washington that did significant damage to the Washington Monument. And just to top off my third week, this was followed immediately by remnants of a hurricane, which brought a tropical storm into Washington, which forced us to cancel the event for the Martin Luther King Memorial, where we were expecting 300,000 people, and much of the chairs and porta-johns had been set up for that. So it is, but the Washington Monument, out of that, it resulted in some wonderful things. So we had some damage, and we had to shut the monument down for 3 years. But it's the only time ever in my entire career where I think I've had every disaster hit me in various parts of my job, but it's the only time people said, "Bob, don't worry about the money." And I'll never hear that again either. But they said, just get going. And so really, literally, within a few minutes after continuing to assess the earthquake damage, we started working on what can we do to really figure out what happened and do a detailed assessment and then work on reopening it. And it was through great partnerships that made that happen. And we had a wonderful gift from a great philanthropist who is here in Washington, D.C., David Rubenstein, who gave $7.5 million, and Congress immediately matched that gift in order to get the Washington Monument reopened. And so here's just some scenes from that great partnership effort. And we were excited that CyArk immediately said that they could, even with the scaffolding on, that we could do some work on the Washington Monument. And here is part of our great team that helped us. This is actually in the basement of the Lincoln Memorial. And this is a scanned image of the Lincoln Memorial. And then this is a 3D scanned image of the Washington Monument. So my closing point is just that we're all in this together. We all have a great responsibility for protecting these important cultural sites. And we can't do it alone. And I am very committed in my job as a steward of these resources with the National Park Service. But you know, we've never really been able to protect all these sites alone. The Washington Monument and all of the great monuments in Washington were actually built through partnership efforts. And we've always needed the support of the American public who owns these resources. And we've always needed partners to help us do great things. And indeed, it has, from that first meeting where I truly was, even after they left, like, well, this sounds too good to be true, to really understanding that this is it's a great partnership, and we are very appreciative of the effort to work with you and to helping to be a part of preserving these great resources for the American public and people around the world. So thank you very much for everyone that's been a part of that, and I'm happy to answer some questions, and I also will be around through dinner tonight. None? Okay, great, thank you.